Welcome to Wrap. My name is Emily Baltz, and I'm your host for this 8-week show in the storefront of the DKNY shop at 420 West Broadway in New York City. Over 8 weeks, I'm interviewing 25 incredible contemporary female artists based in New York City to talk about their recipes for art and process. And today, I have the great pleasure of sitting very closely next to, on this subway bench, Jessie Paris Smith. We're nestled into the storefront window. Thankfully, it's getting a little cooler. And I'm glad I put perfume on, too. So Jessie is a composer, instrumentalist, activist, and event producer. She's performed in venues all across the world and has composed music for short films, art installations, fashion shows, and more. Her collaborations with many talented musicians, often with projects around topics of climate change and the Himalayan region, including co-founding a fundraising initiative called Pathway to Paris with Montreal cellist Rebecca Foon for bringing awareness to the urgent importance of a global climate agreement. Jessie has also curated an annual event at the Met for several years with her mother, Patti Smith, around evenings of music, poetry, and stories inspired by a specific exhibit in the museum, an idea they also took to other venues like MoMA. Smith is a graduate of the Sound and Music Institute. So, Jessie, you have such an incredible multidisciplinary practice. What inspired you to start mixing mediums together like this and motivated you to create such work?
Does that matter? Sorry. I guess it wasn't necessarily a conscious decision. It just kind of naturally happened that way. I definitely admire artists who have multiple disciplines and follow all of them and don't just stick to one thing. But when I was a teenager, I didn't want to be a musician. It was like, I'm not doing that.
What did you want to be?
I wanted to be a climate scientist. So
wow.
I played piano, but it was kind of just my own personal thing, like writing in a journal, kind of. It was just for me. I wasn't planning on having that be my life. I wasn't planning on being a musician or an artist or anything. I just was really passionate about global warming and environmental issues, and so that's what I wanted to do, but I felt like I wasn't actually like a scientist. I just really wanted to be one, and so I felt more like an artistic, creative person, but I just didn't know what to do. So I guess over the years they just naturally. This is so scary, you can't just stand there.
Yeah, you can't just stand there. We've also been accosted by a passerby. Please stand behind the screen, thank you. This is what happens when we have to talk in a storefront window. You've performed in stages all over the world, and I have a feeling this is somehow...
This is different. When there's a dark audience of strangers, you can't see them. But when someone you actually know is standing right there in broad daylight, it's a little bit terrifying.
Exposed.
Exposed.
So what did bringing the arts into your interest in climate change end up doing for you?
Oh, well, yeah, I guess over the years just found out that music is such a great way to be able to mix both of those things together. Music is so innately collaborative, so it's such a great way to bring people together from all different walks of life, all different parts of the world. And in the case of climate change, it's a global issue. It affects every person in the world, so music is a way to connect people. Music is the universal language. You don't have to speak the same language or have anything in common, but when you get people together to play music, it's amazing. You can actually like deliver messages to more people, and I'm kind of rambling. I'm sorry, but I know what I want to say. I'm just thinking about like 12 different things at once.
Yeah, I think your brain also works this way from what I've seen, which is the beauty of it. And you collaborate a lot. I've seen collaborations with all sorts of different musicians, with your family. What's your kind of best collaboration scenario? Where do you feel most comfortable?
I don't know. I guess most comfortable, like probably be just by myself. But I think the point of collaboration is to go out of your comfort zone, and as an artist, as a musician, as an individual, as an activist or anything, the more diversity of people that you can work with, the more you learn, the more you grow, and even if it's sometimes kind of scary, it just, you get so much more from it than just by, working with people that feel familiar, or feel comfortable, or I guess I feel most comfortable with maybe my family. Just it's not as much pressure, and we all kind of, make mistakes and goof around, and we just have like a connection that, because we're related, that it's sort of, we can like read each other in a really special way. But I don't know, that doesn't make sense.
It makes total sense, because when you're talking about music being universal language, I also wonder, family is kind of like a universal language in some ways, for better or worse. Like, we know each other's ins and outs so well, but that kind of trust too, when we're making work, I think I know that motivates me in whatever collaboration I'm looking for, is to find people maybe I've never collaborated with my family. I would like to. Tim Baltz, you are out there, and we want to make a thing together. So, talking about family, you grew up between Detroit and New York when you were younger? Yeah. How do you feel that these cities affected you, your interests and your art?
Well, I was born in Detroit, but we lived in a town called St. Clair Shores, which is kind of a little nautical town. It's right on Lake St. Clair, and the whole culture of the neighborhoods are just boat people and fishing, and so
the antithesis of Detroit or New York City.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but it was such a perfect place to be a little kid, because the lake was right there, and the lake spills out into canals between each street. So in your backyard you have a fishing deck and a canal, so you watch the boats go by every day, and just and on the street that we lived on, there was all kids everywhere. So you get home from school and just throw your backpack in the house and just leave and go exploring until dinner time, like go to the water, go play in the yard, and go climb trees, and go on bike rides, and go on adventures. So I guess that's how I learned about going on adventures and getting a love for the outdoors and nature. And when
Is this where the climate scientist was born?
Probably. But we moved to New York when I was 9. So, when you're a little kid, at least where we lived in Manhattan, it's completely different. You can't just get home from school and go out till dinner time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I became like an indoors person. Like, you can go on like an excursion to the park, but someone has to kind of take you there. And so when I moved here, I kind of that's when I became more of like an indoors, inside person, and probably was more on the path to writing and playing music and doing more personal things like that. And then, funny, now I live kind of between New York and Detroit, but it sort of has flipped a little bit, because since I grew up here, I don't know how to drive a car, and I just get around by walking and taking the subway. And so when I'm here, I'm more outside and doing things and being with people. And then when I'm there, it's like opposite. I more stay in the house and read books and write and work on stuff. So
it's full funny. Circle in some ways, where your life is like stitching together.
Yeah.
I'm a Libra. I'm always looking for balance.
Nice.
Yeah. What do you think about New York City today? I mean, you have, and even your family's heritage is so deeply embedded in this place. Do you find that? How do you think it's changed?
I guess that even from, we moved here in '96, so even the 20 years that I've been here, like, I guess the change that's most obvious to me is just the economic change of the city. I just was thinking about this morning because I was thinking about that question and just how artists and creative people, they find a place, and they go to it and they build artistic communities there, and then within that artistic community there's, artists bring such a, character and authenticity and chaos and complex nature to a place. It makes it really interesting, and then people want to go there and they want to see that place and they want to experience it for themselves. So the city becomes popular and it gets a name and it grows and it's really good for the place, except for, ironically, then the artists get pushed out. And so the thing that made it interesting in the first place is the thing that gets pushed out. And so I think that while it's still a great place for artists, I don't think it's as easy for someone who is coming here just not with much. It's not as easy to have like a low-income job and like get a studio or open a gallery or work on your art. And even just my friends, like I see so many of them, they either leave or they have to find a new career because it's just not as easy. But I think that New York is really so special because it's still one of the most diverse places in the world, and you can just immerse yourself in like any culture.
Any culture. You walk out the door in the morning and there undoubtedly is every kind of culture and color and size. Oh, when I see the work that you're doing, you recently started this project with Rebecca Foon, Pathway to Paris, and seem to have been able to marry all of these interests of yours and this kind of diversity.
Right.
In terms of doing that as someone who aspires to bring activism into their work, how does someone go about doing that? What's the first step they can take?
Well,
how did you do it? That's what I'm curious about. Did you sit down and say, Becky, I want to do this, and then you did it? Or was there like a summit or a dinner? Or
No. Well, in 2014, September 2014, the People's Climate March happened here. Well, it happened in countries all over the world, but specifically here, there were over 400,000 people marching, and I called her. I knew she was interested in the same issues, and I called her and said, oh, there's this giant march happening. We have to do something. Like, there's no concert happening. There's no celebration. Like, all these people are going to be here. We should put something together. So in such a short time, I don't know, like a week, we pulled together this concert, and it was so amazing, just the response from all of the musicians and all of the speakers. We had Bill McKibben from 350. He spoke at our little event.
Incredible.
We had no idea that would happen. It's really exciting. And just everyone in the audience and everyone who couldn't be there, like after the event happened, they say, what's next? You got to keep going. So we just decided to turn it into a whole series leading up to COP21. So, and then after COP21 happened, the same thing. We were only planning to go to December 2015, but after that, the same thing happened. People said, okay, what's next? We keep going. So now we're trying to, we're now partnered with the UNDP and 350 officially. So we're trying to use the platform of Pathway to Paris and turn it into a annual festival, like make it a bigger thing than just a series of concerts. Like, we want to make it a big annual festival that happens during the COP every year. So hopefully that can
This
happen.
is incredible. Such wonderful, ambitious goals. Yeah. And it seems like you're also surrounded by a lot of women, that you have very powerful, awesome people around you. I'm curious about your definition of what it means to be a female, because there's so much, I think, non-gender association in today's day and age. This show specifically, I'm interested in hearing other women's definitions of that. What does it mean to be female today?
It's so complicated.
Yeah. Well, we live it, right?
Yeah, it's so complicated, I guess, because you have your own personal like ideal of how you would like things to be, but then you have to, you know, take into consideration the actual way that things are, and also just, you know, how much you've been conditioned by your whole life, by, you know, anyone, your family, your friends, your school, the media, advertising, and so I kind of like flip-flop between, like, sometimes I feel like old-fashioned, and I like to feel like a lady, and I like the idea of chivalry, and I want like someone to hold the door open for me, and just feel like old-fashioned. And then sometimes I feel so angry and just about just the injustices and inequality of women. And I think that my ideal way that I wish that things could be is just that we could transcend the whole construct of gender and not even have to think about it at all. Like, it'd be nice to just have it just not even be a thing. Like, it's just, everything is so neutral, and you don't even have to think about it. Like, I don't have to say, like, I'm a female this, or I'm a female, you know, that. Like, it'd just be nice to just not have to have it even be in your mind, but it really is all the time, because that's the way things are, and especially in different cultures and different parts of the world, you know, women are still, you know, it's such a, there's so much more work to do, and we can't forget about that. But like, personally, I guess I have to, you know, it's a subject that I have to go back to all the time, because I guess with like, especially how women are used in, like, their image is used in advertising and on TV and in the media, like, that had a big effect on me, like, growing up. And it, you know, it like bothers me, and I, like, 'cause when you see like a billboard of like a lady like half naked, you have to see it too. It's not like it's just like it's to everyone. Like, so it's, when you grow up with that, like, you know what I mean? Like, you want things to be, like, I want things to be a certain way, but I feel like a lot of, like, damage needs to be undone, like, in individuals, and it's just still, even though so much progress has been made, it's still, I think, a long way to go.
This is perhaps your next festival and platform.
Okay. Let's do it.
Okay, great. We started here, right now.
But you know what I mean? It's just, so complicated. Like, I feel different, like, all the time about it.
Yeah.
Just because of all those factors.
We always will have work to do.
Yeah.
So I think as a wrap to our rap conversation, I couldn't help but make you the metaphor for it. So I'm making everyone on the show a rap. And doing it in collaboration with my friend Alicia Walter from Once Upon a Tart, just down the street. So I'm designing them. She has amazing ingredients, and I thought it would be really good in inspiration of all the collaboration and the sharing in the world that you do to offer some of that back to you. So this is a wrap to share.
Oh.
So it comes in many pieces. Hold
on.
It's
so nice.
Whoa. Sorry, you really don't have two hands, but I have to give you all these pieces.
That's such a beautiful idea.
So this is organic cabbage, decotta squash, roasted cauliflower, roasted sweet bell pepper, garlic, shallot, harissa, and dandelion greens.
Wow, delicious.
So it's 100% organic vegetables. Maybe it's the earth in a little wrap.
Why is it purple?
Pieces. That's the cabbage, steamed cabbage. Yeah.
Wow.
So you can eat them and share with many, as I think you already do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on, Jessie.